Hey guys, and welcome back. I'm Rachel O'Leary, and today we're out in front of my bog gardens because, as you can see, I've had to winterize them in a hurry. Just 2 days ago here in Zone 6, it was t-shirt weather, but last night we got snow, and it looks like for at least the next week, it's going to be down hovering at freezing or a few degrees below freezing. Now, I've mentioned to you in previous videos how I overwinter, but I'm going to show you again today. The species that are in my particular containers are generally from a more southerly climate. It does get cold. Again, they require that cool temperature of at least 30 days of 30 degrees. So it's not so much that these guys will freeze, it's how fast they get cold and what can happen to them when they do. So I like to insulate them to sort of slow down the process. I start by cutting off the tallest of the pitchers, and this is simply just so that I can cover them easier. As I've shown you in the spring, I generally come through and cut everything but the purpurias back anyway before the growing season, which is generally March or April here in Zone 6. I then lay down some burlap. The purpose of the burlap is to prevent this top coating from getting into my bog garden. It's also breathable, but it's mainly to keep a barrier between my garden and the pine litter that I'm using here. Now, there's lots of different strategies for overwintering. I like to use this burlap, then I'll put 6 to 10 inches of this pine litter on top, and if we're supposed to have like profoundly cold winters, I'll then lay a layer of winter cloth over the top as well. It just hasn't been getting that cold here in the last few years, so I'll keep an eye on the forecast, and I have winter cloth in the greenhouse should I need it. This allows the garden to breathe, it allows water to get through or snow melt, but it just insulates things so that they cool down a bit slower. Now, there's lots and lots of different strategies people use for covering, insulating, or overwintering their carnivorous plants. Many folks, if they have movable containers, will put them in a garage, underneath a sheltered deck, things like that. In profoundly cold climates, I've heard of people burying them to the frost line so that they don't get frozen so badly. Some people will line their gardens with straw bales and then lay winter cloth over the top. There's tons and tons of different strategies. Some people will even uproot them and put them in the refrigerator for the 30 days and then replant them if you're in a warmer climate. This is just what has worked for me over the past 5 years or so. Now, I've never had the container bog before, so we'll see how that one goes. These two sort of insulate each other. The plants themselves, because they're shallower gardens, are right down on the ground, so they get some insulation from that as well. Some things that can happen over the winter that can be detrimental to your bog gardens are mold or fungus, which is why I use these breathable materials to insulate. You could also certainly use leaf litter or found pine litter. I prefer to buy it because it's clean and it's dry. When I pull it from underneath my pine trees, there's usually all sorts of contaminants mixed in, bugs, sometimes mold, and I like to start with a fresh media. Now, I generally reuse this stuff from year to year. This year I had to replace my pine straw just because it was getting too messy. This holds together pretty well when you first get it, either in that roll or in a bale. And I'll put a link down in the video description with the exact one that I purchased, to the burlap as well as the pine straw and to winter cloth. But historically I found that this works out really, really well. I'll open this up again in the spring when the risk of a hard freeze is past, and then keep an eye on the bog at that point to see if it's growing. Another issue that can arise over the winter is pests, things like voles or burrowing creatures that are looking for food. Historically, I haven't had a problem with this, but I know that it's a problem that a lot of people have. If it occurs, I'll let you know what I do about it, but for now I don't do anything preventative for that. So basically that's how I overwinter my bog. The whole process takes maybe 15 minutes for all 3 of my gardens. It's easy, it tends to work really well, but make sure you subscribe with that notification bell on so you can see what happens this spring when I open her back up. As always, thanks for your continued support.